Welcome back, Superstar, to part 2 of how to structure and sell a virtual group coaching program. Let's go. Quick recap of what we covered in number 1 is we talked about knowing who the audience is, identifying their problems, the known problems, the hidden problems, the unknown problems, and also identifying the possibilities beyond those problems. So let's jump right back in to number 4. Number 4 is nailing down a positioning statement. A positioning statement is similar to, let's say, a mission statement. The positioning statement talks about who the program is for, the solution that it provides, and why you want to provide that solution. So a simple formula, and I've done whole videos on this formula, so I'm not going to dive deep into this, but you can find those videos, by the way. We'll post below how to write a mission statement video. You can use that exact same formula, but just quickly, it's I help X do Y so that Z. So in other words, I help X is the who, do this Y, this what, this thing that I provide, so that Z is the outcome. So you can use that formula really simply. I help this audience do this thing for this reason. Let me give you a quick example of what that might sound like. I had my clients send over some examples of mission statements. So here are a couple great examples. Here's Amy Lemaire's example. I work with success-driven sales stars to increase confidence and performance and revenues so they can lose the stress and be the best version of themselves, right? So ABC, XYZ, however you want to do it, just have clarity around who you serve, what you do for them, and why you do it. You may even want to include in there a little bit about how you do it, but be careful because you don't want your positioning statement to get too long. The 5th thing that you'll think about, and you may start to notice that there's a little pattern emerging here, no pun intended, P's. These are all P's except the last one. I couldn't figure out a way to make it a P. So, oh well. It's like 7 P's and an S. The 5th one is the path. And what I mean by the path is the journey that you want to take your clients on to get the outcome to this problem and to achieve that possibility. What is the path? Now, there are a few ways of looking at the path. You can think about it as a customer journey. One really great way to think about it is the journey from A to B. What are the steps that they have to go from where they are now to where they want to go? Another way to look at the path is a way that I learned about from a woman named Lisa Sasevich, which is problem, solution, problem, solution. In other words, there's a problem here, there's an initial solution that they need. As soon as they have that initial solution, there's a new problem and a new solution needed. So understanding the journey they're going to take, for example, with my clients, often the big problem that they have is that they want to make more money, have more stability, stable revenue, and they want to do it without selling their soul or losing their lifestyle in the process. Most of my clients, as you probably know by now, are superstars, which means that they're speakers, authors, coaches, and consultants. And a lot of times, that type of audience has the known problem that they're selling time for money. They feel exhausted and overworked and stressed out. And the hidden problem that they don't realize they have is they have the wrong business model. They have no leverage built into their model. They're selling time for money and they need a more leveraged, scalable model, which is what I'm teaching you, right? How to have a virtual online group program that's more leveraged, more scalable, right? So the possibility beyond that is, what would it be like if you had stable recurring revenues, if clients were coming to you, if you didn't have to hop on an airplane every other day, live your life in hotel rooms? What if you could create models where clients come to you and you're selling something that has monthly recurring revenues? That's the possibility. The positioning statement, you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to do this one on the fly. The who is the superstars, the high achieving speakers, authors, coaches, and consultants. What they want is what I help them do. The what that I help them do is build a new business model for recurring revenue and stability. And why I do it is so that they can share their gifts on a much larger scale, right? So the path that I take them on is from where they are now, they need to first create a business model. They need to create a new business plan. So that's step one. I take them to create the business plan first. What's the new model? How are they going to drive revenue? And then once they have that plan, guess what? They're going to run into roadblocks in implementation. So the new problem that they have to solve is, how am I going to implement this and stay on track? Right? So that's the path that I see them having to go on. And eventually they're going to have to start addressing their mindset stuff, addressing their patterns and belief systems that are getting in the way. Now, before we move on, I want to invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, maybe even post a comment below. Let me know how you're doing with this exercise. Once you have a clarity, or at least some idea about the path that these clients are going to go on with you in your virtual group coaching program, you'll want to start nailing down the program design. Now, I cheated a little bit on this one because really it's a D for design, but put a program in front of it, and now it's a P. All right, so program design is, how are you going to structure the program? This is everything around how often are you going to meet, where are you going to meet online, how long are your meetings going to be, is it going to be led by you, facilitated by you? Will you be leading hot seats? Will you be leading discussions? Will you be bringing in speakers? All of that is part of the program design. Here's my recommendation. Don't overproduce it. I say this all the time. I find that the people that struggle the most with these types of programs are the ones that try to do too much. And I want you to know that the person that helps me with operations, she has overseen coaching programs for decades, and they have done research. In her last position, they did a data study, and one of the things they studied was what makes people leave coaching programs. And guess what the number one reason that people leave programs? It's because they feel like they're not taking advantage of all the offerings. So you're likely going to not be served by over-delivering. And I don't mean by over-delivering, because you want to over-deliver. You want to exceed expectations always. But what I mean is, avoid the kitchen sink strategy. Throwing in, I've got this audio, I did this series, I'm going to give them this thing, and pouring all these things into your program design. I highly advise you not to do that. What I advise you to do instead is go back to this path and find the minimum viable product that will deliver the outcome. Less is more. People will actually pay more to be able to do less and get the outcome. This is my whole business model is built on this, by the way. This is why I do my 3-day event, because people would rather get the outcome of designing their new business model in 3 days than in 12 weeks. People think that if it's bigger and longer, they can charge more. This is going to lead us into the next P, by the way, which is price. They believe they can charge more when actually people will pay more for a simpler, easier, faster solution. So with your program design, less is more, and tap into the magic of the group. Do not try to make yourself the center of everything. Yes, deliver the value that only you can deliver, and utilize the collective magic of the group. Create masterminds, create group discussions, pair people up for role plays. Do what you can to really leverage the power that's there in this people that you're curating and cultivating and gathering together. Now, the 7th piece is one of the ones that I find gives people the most trouble. It's price. How do you charge for this? And the reason it gives people the most trouble, and by the way, most people undercharge. If I had to take a guess, now I don't have data on this, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say 90% of the time, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors undercharge for these types of programs. What I want to invite you to consider is the higher level person you bring into the mix, and the bigger the problem you solve, and the more beautiful the possibility on the other side, the higher you can charge for this. Right? And again, simple, don't overproduce it, and charge a high price point. Now, I like a price point for a group coaching program north of about $1,000 a month. That's my favorite price point. I feel like if you bring really great people together who are at a higher level in their industry and they want to really pony up and get to the next level, you can charge at least $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for that kind of program. Now, keep in mind, that means that you have to be someone who has stepped into that yourself. There has to be an element of congruency and congruent leadership. I want to invite you to consider stretching yourself without overselling yourself. So it's a dance. It's something to fine tune. And you ultimately have to come up with a price point that you feel that this outcome, this possibility is worth. And I really invite you to price based on that outcome rather than paying based on the program design. This is a big shift for a lot of people, okay? So 7 is price point. Invite you to consider also pricing it as a monthly recurring revenue and also offering a one pay special deal. The reason I like both is the one pay gives you all the money up front. And if you're anything like me or a lot of my clients, you can maybe blow all that money up front too. So I also like having the option of the monthly recurring and having those two options. Some people pick the full pay, get the discount. Some people pick the monthly recurring, and that creates the stability of a monthly recurring model for your business. Finally, let's get to 8, which is promotion. Promotion is how are you going to market this thing? How are you going to get this out into the world? What I like to do, especially when I'm launching a program like this, and what I advise my clients to do, is to initially look at who do you already know that you believe could or should be in this program? Who are the people that you already know that you'd like to seed the program with? Who could be founders of the program with you? And I invite you to think smaller rather than bigger. Rather than coming up with a list of 100 people, I would say who are the 5 or 10 people that you believe would be the best, most aligned people with your values to start this group with you, and then offer them some sort of special founders opportunity to get it off the ground with you, and letting them know that, hey, you're going to be part of this from the ground level. You're going to actually help me to build and grow this. You're going to get a special price to get in early, and you're going to be able to give me feedback and bring in your own people to help us grow this thing organically from the inside out. All right, finally, the last one, I guess it was 8 P's and 1 S, is sales. Now, I'm not going to dive deeply into sales in this video because I've done so many videos on sales. I invite you to go check out some of my other playlists about sales, about how to do coaching sales, discovery calls, strategy sessions. I walk you through my exact process, my exact sales formula. And again, I advise that this will be a lot easier if you focus on promoting this initially to the people in your inner circle and to the people in your inner circle's inner circle. If you're looking to launch a virtual group coaching program, I can help. If you'd like to set up a time to connect with me, learn more about my products, my services, you can find out more at superstaractivator.com. And if you want to apply for a call with me directly, you can go to superstaractivator.com/go. I hope to meet you soon.